Hey, what's up? It's the Brace and Bryan show. It's me and Brace. We're back, baby. What's up, Brace?
Nothing, just uh, uh sorry, fuck that up.
You can't fuck it up. It's
No,
half
I
of your
fucked it
show.
up. I fucked it up.
You burned your foot with acid today. I
I
think it's
burned
okay, right?
well, so what happened was I was doing the pipes, which is a little technical term for cleaning the pipes. It's a process called CIP, which has the way the company works is that just knowledge is passed on, but it's like telephone. So like everyone kind of like it gets dumber with each iteration. So somebody at one point in time knew what CIP stand for, but we don't know if it stands for chemicals in pipes or cleaning in pipe or anything. But I'm cleaning the pipes. I got the chemicals flowing. It's acid, and it's pooling on the floor, which it's supposed to do because it goes to the drain. And I realized my foot feels wet. And I look down and there's a giant hole in the side of my big old rubber boots, and I am soaked in acid.
Jesus.
Yeah.
It hurts pretty bad, huh?
So it's diluted at that point, so it doesn't hurt like that. Like there was a second where I'm like, I'll probably just walk it off. And then I told someone, they're like, oh, you shouldn't walk that off. Like you should probably really wash that off. And I went and washed it off, and yeah, I got some chemical burns on my foot.
God, working like with hazard. I was a industrial roofer
Yeah.
for about 6 months at one point, and I worked with like a lot of hazardous chemicals. And I
Yeah.
always think about there was this time where we were working and it was like 10 degrees outside, and we were like spreading this latex glue on a parking garage floor.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what it was, but it was freezing. The glue would freeze and you couldn't spread it. So those motherfuckers had me sit in the car with the heat on next to the buckets of glue so that they would warm up, because you can't leave a car. I guess they couldn't leave the car running without somebody in it.
Yeah.
And I was just like sitting, I was high the entire fucking time. And it was like, fuck. I hate working with hazardous shit.
Me too, man. I get paid $16.90 a goddamn hour. Like, I don't even get paid more for doing the CIP shit.
Right. You should be an shouldn't you be considered some sort of an expert when you're doing something with something that can burn through your boot?
So we're trying to, in the contract, for those of you who don't know, we unionized the brewery I work at, and we're at our contract negotiations now, and we're finally gonna have like pay differentials. Like, if I do this work, I get paid 50 cents more.
That's fucking sweet.
Yeah. My coworkers just fucking get to chill and hang out and like spray the same spot on the floor with hot water for like 45 minutes. And I got to be monkeying around and everything.
God damn. We haven't talked. We talked before, and then I went on 2 fucking long tours and didn't get a hold of you when I was home because I was barely home. And so how is the unionizing going? We talked before you guys voted it in, so I'm curious.
We haven't talked since then?
Yeah, we might. Wow. No, we haven't, because we talked in February. And then I fucking went to New York and Boston. I did my Northeast tour, and then I did the Southwest tour, and those were like roughly a month apart. Yeah. So in between that time, I wasn't really recording shows, so I didn't get a hold of you.
So we won the shit out of the vote. We actually had 2 votes. We won the first one with 2-1 margin. I think it was like 36-16. And actually our margin went way, like 36 yes, 16 no. And our margin went way up after that because there was 9 votes that they didn't count because the company was trying to say that like they weren't going to be in the union. And we won over half of those, and those people are in the union and the other half are not. So we did pretty fucking good. And the bar that we're attached to, like that just serves the anchor product, they also unionized and they got 3-1 margin.
Yeah, it seems like it seems like you guys were really smart about making sure you had the support within the company before you set it up.
So we did it for a year. And so like it wasn't supposed to be that long, but people ended up quitting their job because it doesn't pay so great. You got to fucking, if you can't afford rent in the city, you got to live in like a couple hours away and drive in, which some people did. Um, and so we just like talked to everybody and had like conversations and kind of got them involved, and like had meetings and were super open, obviously secretive to the company, but open. And I think that's where our big support came from. Also, it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of the like younger guys who like have never made any money and like kind of vaguely know from like TV that union jobs are good jobs.
That's
And
true.
that yeah, exactly. Like, like they're like the guy in King of Queens is like a union guy. And he gets to have sex with his hot wife.
That's not guaranteed by the union now.
Actually, we do have a clause in the. I'm just kidding. We don't have a contract yet, but that will be.
That'll be in there somewhere. So are you part of the negotiation? Are you sitting at the table negotiating with them?
I am not. I purposely did not run for the bargaining committee because I like, this shit. I've like lived and breathed this shit every day since fucking like December 2017. And it's really been cool to see like a lot of guys, like I've seen them develop sort of class consciousness and like this sort of view of themselves as a worker, and like see themselves as part of a class. And so like, they're stepping up and they want to do it. And if someone else wants to do it, fucking fine by me. Like,
right.
They're going to be there. A lot of these guys have been there longer than me and are probably going to be there longer than me. So shit, like take ownership,
Right. Yeah. I always think like that's the sweet spot, is like when you have people that aren't like radical politics people actually running, like people that aren't normally what you would think of as a radical politics person running something. I think that's generally a good thing. That's what we're shooting for.
Exactly. And like, they're not like doing that bullshit where they're like, well, they're not like treating the company like a friend like that. Like that was some concerns we ran into with some people at first, is that like, well, the company is, we got to give them a chance. Now, like everyone's like, we're fighting for ourselves. Like we're fighting for the workforce. That's it.
Yeah. You can still, and the thing is like, I think there's this big misunderstanding when you say treating the company like a friend, where it's like you can't hang out with anybody that works in the office or anything like that.
Which we do.
Yeah, that's not that you can still be like, it's just you're sticking up for yourself. It's not like the person in the office that you're friends with is the one that's personally like trying to stop you. You're not on opposite sides in a way, but
like the main bosses, well, we don't even know them.
Yeah, the people that the stuff comes down, the people that the stuff that you're pissed off about aren't even in San Francisco, probably, or they might
exactly. They're in Japan, which is badass.
That is. We gotta get there. We gotta go to Japan. Maybe me and you can do our only live show, just Brace and Bryan live in Japan,
rapping at you. Rap sesh.
That would be weird. Me and Brett are always like bummed because when you start touring, I'm sure this from being in a band, you're like, the first thing you start to think is like, well, where would I like to go? Like, what's a city I'd like to see? And it's like, well, you don't get to leave America though. So.
Exactly. It's like, and I toured the country. Well, I've only done one full US tour, but I've been on a lot of tours to a lot of different places. You kind of are like, I wish I could just go to Europe, but I never went on a European tour.
Yeah, I can't. I like Chapo was just over there.
Yeah,
and I was so surprised. Like that to me would make me nervous. I don't know if
a fucking like Italian. I mean, they're not in Italy, but like, I like who would show up if I had a podcast. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like Chapo's huge, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, they probably knew what they were gonna roughly draw when they went over there. For me, it's like, it's still so hard to tell doing the live gigs, like what it's going to be, because we had been like, we've done so many tours that like every show was sold out and they were wild. That West Coast tour, like had
That
me
rocked.
feeling like I might as well be on fucking TV or something. But then we just did the Southwest, and they were not the biggest shows we've ever done. And it
Yeah, the
starts to feel like
Southwest can be rough
losing,
touring.
and it starts to feel like you're losing momentum in a weird
Yeah.
way, and then you start to let it get in your head.
Exactly.
It's such a weird thing. That Southwest is so that's like such a weird part of the country.
You know, I've played shows where it's like a really small audience in a really hot place in a really kind of dismal town, and it's been great. But most of the time, it's just kind of depressing. And
Yeah.
like the guy who booked it's always kind of apologetic and been like, you guys can like actually you can't stay at my couch, but you know, you can stay at my cousin's house, and you go to their cousin's house. When Chapo did that bit about the hot couch,
Yeah.
that shit spoke to me like nothing else has ever spoken to me. That was like, to me, that was like finding the truth, because I've experienced so many fucking like somehow this person has fluorescent lights in their living room, and they're making me fucking watch like Die Hard 2 at like full volume while they're also trying to talk to me, and like, and they're fucking, and they're like 17-year-old son is there somehow and drunk, and like it's been difficult sometimes.
I had to put my foot down. Like, so we did our first live show in Philly with Chapo, and we stayed at a couple people's houses that were very gracious and kind. And they were nice, but I also slept on a hardwood floor one of the nights. And I just told Brett, like, we are no more live shows unless we can get a fucking hotel room.
Yeah.
And then, you know, we get lucky, we get the Hotel Connect, and now we can.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, now we make enough money even to get a hotel. So we're like doing it now. But like when I was in my 20s, I slept on so many floors. Yeah. Like I don't know why. I guess like what I don't understand is why are those people the most likely to invite you to stay at their house?
I have no idea. Like I once stayed at a house in Kansas City that had probably more dog shit per square yard than anywhere else in the entire world, like including all dog parks. And I thought to myself, I was like, if I was a person whose house was pretty much just coated in the feces of an animal, the last thing I would do would be to invite someone to stay there.
Right. Back when I was working as a cable guy, I used to see a lot of pretty bad shit. And it was just like, I remember growing up, and even in my house now, it's like, hey, the cable guy's coming over. Can we like clean stuff up a little bit?
Exactly.
And you would go in these people, like I would get there and I'd be like, hey, I need to go in your basement. And they'd be like, are you sure you need to go down in the basement? I'm like, that's where all the shit is. Yes, I got to go. And then you get down there and there would literally be a whole basement floor full of shit because they just let their dog shit down there and they never fucking cleaned it up. And it's like, this happens. I was crawling in a crawl space one time, like trying to trace a cable line. And I look over and there's a dead cat in there. And I'm just like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, why did you let me in your house?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, why? How do you have cable?
Yes, exactly. Well, that was one of the things about the cable guy thing. It's like, have you ever had a job where you kind of felt bad about what you do? Like, that like the service you provide the world is like a net negative.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Have you ever like had those thoughts at a job?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, when I worked there would be a lot of times where, you know, you come into a house, the kids are sitting in dirty diapers and stuff on the floor, and the dad is just sitting on a couch watching Fox News and screaming at you that the pictures are snowy and you got to get them fixed. And there's a lot of times where I was just like, fixing this guy's cable is the worst fucking thing I could do for him right now.
Yes. I mean, dude, I make alcohol.
Yeah.
I mean, just from some people I know who drink Anchor a lot. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it's weird because you try not to let it get because like this happens to me a lot because of the subject matter of our show, but people apologize to me a lot for their jobs. And I'm like, why? Everybody's got to make money. it fucking sucks, you know.
Yeah.
But what do you do if you're not a cop? Then good. Whatever
Yeah.
else it is, then I'm fine with that.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, it's ugh. Work. I always am like that. Those anti-work left-wing people, I think, are a little silly because it's like yeah. I have a lot of thoughts about that. But then sometimes I'm at work, I'm like, they're right.
Yeah. I don't know if I'm anti-work. I think it could all get done in a lot less time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We obviously we literally need work to like have a plate and like eat. Though there is like, I just think that work is there's so much dumb busy work that like how many times have you fucking just stood there and wiped something for like an hour just because you get in trouble if you didn't?
Right.
If you weren't physically doing something. Like all the time for me, I just stand there and like spray something that kind of doesn't need to be sprayed because I have to.
Right. Or making the rounds with a broom.
Oh God,
It's
yes.
something
I
that,
made the
like,
rounds with a broom today.
I worked at a grocery store, and my favorite job was the broom, but it was like I was just because I was aimlessly wandering around the store the whole time.
Like I would say that like probably a plurality, actually don't know how to use that word in this context correctly, but I'm assuming I am. A plurality of work that like anybody in any job does, bar none, is busy work.
Yes. Absolutely.
And if we just got rid of that, we'd have like a 5-hour day, 6-hour day.
Oh, I know. And then even then, with all the people that aren't working, you could cut that in half, and 2 people could work
absolutely
3 hours each, 2.5 hours each.
Because here's the thing, in sort of my I've come up with this fully automatic automated or whatever luxury communism bullshit.
Yes.
Dude, I've come up with something that's actually like real and not just a catchphrase. Is fucking eco-Khrushchevism.
Okay. I'm going to need you to explain that more.
So Khrushchev was the guy who came after Stalin in the Soviet Union, right?
Yeah.
And he is most famous for his absolute love of corn. He was Ukrainian, and Ukrainian corn, I think, was very near and dear to his heart. But he also built a lot of apartment buildings. Now, the Green New Deal is probably, if we're being honest with ourselves, going to be like kind of a giveaway. It's like going to be a bribe to the capitalists so that they support ecological measures. Like it's going to be like all these public-private property, like partnerships and shit. We don't need that. We need the entire, we're supposed to retrofit every single building in America.
Yeah.
Well, that's just what we do for a year. Everybody does it.
Absolutely.
The other people, they farm corn.
Okay. We should farm less corn, though.
No, sorry.
Less corn.
It's not called eco-Stalinism. It's eco-Khrushchevism.
Okay.
We farm corn. We farm corn because it's easy, because you can make corn syrup, which goes great in Coca-Cola. See, that's a little coming out now.
Yeah.
And we farm corn because it can be used as a blunt instrument, a sex toy, and also, if you hollowed it out, as a lute.
Yeah, and cereal is made out of like almost all of our food is made out of corn.
Dude, I fucking love cereal. I don't want to be one of those guys, but it rocks.
I like it. I'm a big fan.
It's like the stuff I really like the frosted mini wheats. That's like I don't want Jen to see me eating that, so I don't buy it. And also it's bad for me. But every time I go to the liquor store, I see it and I just fucking shudder in delight.
I get bummed now because the kid stopped eating cereal with milk. She's using like oat milk and almond milk stuff. And I don't know. I'm not too thrilled about I think milk is gross, but I'm just used to it. I don't know why.
It's only good in cereal, I think.
Right. Yes, exactly. But I don't really know why like almond milk and soy milk and
they
oat
don't
milk
it's not
freak me out.
Somehow not the right texture.
Right. Yeah. It's like
I agree. And almond milk, like plain, tastes kind of gross with cereal.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't like fucking with any of those milks or pea milk. Brett drinks
pea milk?
Or no, it's pea protein.
Are you sure it's not just pea?
Well, I mean, that's possible. A couple months ago, I got over to his house I got over to Brett's house to record, and I was feeling a little lightheaded and sick. I don't know what was going on. And I was just like, maybe I just need some protein. So he's like, hold on, I'll be right back. And he ran upstairs and he came back downstairs and he handed me taco flavored crickets.
What, man? Like crickets, like the animal?
The actual toasted crickets. He eats them every day.
He just
loves them.
My man is just popping cricks in the mouth.
Yes. He loves them. He thinks
my man is popping cricks.
He thinks they make him feel powerful and full and good. And
if they make him feel powerful, who am I to judge?
I agree. Yeah.
I used to eat candy bugs as a kid.
Why?
They sold them in the museum.
Well, okay. I used to eat astronaut food as a kid because they sold it at the museum. But
don't they just eat their own pee? Like
no,
it's like recycled, right?
It's the ice cream. They eat ice, like the astronaut ice cream. You know what I'm talking about?
I do not, but it sounds awesome.
It's not. It's warm. It's like a hard, warm Neapolitan, which is like the worst kind of ice cream.
Yeah, it sucks. Fuck. Snack. I hate fucking. I can't even get this out. I despise fruit flavored ice cream.
Oh, geez. I like cherry cordial ice cream.
See, but you're a cherry head now.
I'm a big cherry head.
For the show, but my man is eating upwards of 500, 600 cherries a day.
I am drinking. I have had in the past hour 4 black cherry seltzer waters. So yeah, I'm cherrying it up lately.
I get a lot of cherry talk about white cherries.
Well, okay. I went to the movies the other night and I had a white cherry icy. So
okay. All right, mea culpa. You know what? In my head, mea culpa. When you say that, it's you saying mea culpable. It's like an Italian sort of shorthand.
I think it's a Latin word though, but I like it. You're just as cultured as I am, Bryce.
Yeah, I mean, fuck. I was also thinking about this because remember, like it's kind of out of vogue now, but remember, like post-apocalyptic stuff got really big for a second.
Yeah.
Like everyone loved that. Shit.
If you go on Netflix, everything is post-apocalyptic these days.
I would be a humble merchant.
Okay, you would be like in the post. What would you sell?
Bugs.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
I would probably sell weapons.
Yeah, but that's like, why would? There's no law there, right? So if somebody had couldn't someone just shoot you and take your weapons?
I mean, not if I have a bunch of weapons, though.
Yeah, well, but you're not gonna be holding a gun on someone the entire time.
Well, see, here's the thing. In the post-apocalyptic world, the guy that has the weapons usually has all the people on his side.
Yeah, true. You'd have catamites.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I would do. I do think I have thought about a collapse in America, right?
Yeah.
And I used to think a lot about what are my skills? And lately I've been I feel like I've said this on the show on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as mechanically inclined goes, I feel like I'm a 7.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I know. I've put my own brakes on my car.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I've also fixed a dryer once. It went from broken to fixed. So I feel like and I was a cable guy for all that time. I know how that stuff works, But that's not really a skill if my car breaks down.
Maybe. Yeah, I guess it's just you can't build a car.
Right, and I can't fix an engine. If it comes down, I can do the brakes, I can change the oil, I can do a few things, but I don't necessarily fully understand how an engine works. But so that's not really a skill I have, so I can't really depend on that. I have worked very hard in my life, but I think my hard-working best days are past me because I'm 40.
Yep.
I can cook, but I don't think that's going to become a great skill in a post-apocalyptic world because it's not like we're going to have all the best ingredients or anything like that. So I think the only thing I really have is that I am good at socializing.
Yeah, well, you could just become a podcaster.
Well, I could, but I think that not even a podcaster. It's just maybe I could become a guy that some warlord likes to have around.
I've thought about that too. My career choice was court Jew, but you could definitely do a secular kind of version of that where you could be like a sort of updated modern jester.
Yes. Just, oh, the warlord loves me. He loves me. He likes to have me around. I sit there and I tell jokes about the guys he's gonna like execute or whatever.
Like he has like some guys lined up that he's gonna execute, and he makes you tell jokes and you're all nervous, and the guys are kind of shaking, and you have to tell these jokes nervously, and there's dead silence after you do, and then the warlord, like furious and just like totally psychotic with rage, yells like laugh, laugh, and everyone starts laughing.
This is great. This is the world I want to be in. But what do you even do? What do you think? You said court Jew, but like, do you have anything that you think is like a good applicable skill for like living in a world without laws or without any structure or institutions?
So I actually thought about this earlier today. What I would do is I would go to where they mine palladium. Palladium?
I don't know what is palladium. I'm very stupid.
It is an ingredient. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know how you use it, but it is the ingredient they use for cell phone screens.
Okay.
And what I would do is I'm thinking of future generations here. Humanity would like 20% chance rebuild itself eventually, right? Like we'd have society again.
I've always felt like that's where communism comes from. That's how we pull it off, because tearing this whole thing down is going to be hard as shit. But at some point it's just going to fucking collapse.
Yeah. Like even if it's in like 400 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to have to.
I mean, little communism pockets. This fucking piece of land is too big for one thing. That's why I think the collapse is going to happen someday.
Yeah. I mean, did you listen to that podcast that just came out about like this upcoming civil war?
No, I didn't know there was one.
It's from a pretty like bog standard liberal perspective, but it's this guy sort of imagining what like a US civil war would look like. And I think he gives both Antifa and the sort of like right-wing militias far too much credit.
Yeah.
But for narrative purposes, I guess it works. And it's like I started thinking about it and like what a civil war would actually look like. And it would probably just be like, the army is like right wing, right?
Yes.
And like pretty much all of it, like institutionally it is. So it's just going to go like, I mean, there's either going to defend the central government or it's going to defend whatever. If there's like a large right wing, like rebellion, it would defend that. Would probably just be like right wingers or like maybe liberal, like the government, versus like even further right.
Right. Yeah. Cause like even the cops also, when you start thinking about like, so who are the people that are going to come and like round us up, or who are going to fight the left wing fighters, and the cops are all right wing too. So like all the weapons, exactly. The right has like all of the weapons. It is very hard. I can never figure that out. Well, okay. You have one bad gun, but
yeah. And two revolvers that probably can't shoot more than 30 feet.
I don't have any guns. I have been making the argument that I should have guns for 15 years.
Easy to get one out there, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're getting rid of you're not even going to have to have a concealed carry permit to conceal carry here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. They're just right wing. We also have a heartbeat bill though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if the reason I kind of don't have one is I got a kid in the house.
Yep.
And would I ever go shooting? Is that really something I would ever do?
I've had this gun for a year and I haven't shot it.
Yeah. Everybody I know buys like I
can't drive. I'm not about to take this thing on the bus.
No, that is true. You can't even do that.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law has one in a case in the trunk of his car, which seems like dumb, like in a locked case in
Yeah.
the trunk of your car. I don't know what tactical purpose that serves. He never shoots. I think he's been shooting twice, and it's like you spent $500 on that thing to sit in a locked case in the trunk of your fucking car.
Yeah, it's like a cop. The police out here always get their guns stolen, which rules. Absolutely rules. It's because that means that someone was just walking by a cop car and saw a gun and was like, I can get this thing. That's not like, you don't have like fucking like Michael Corleone out there like putting out like, get me as many police guns as possible. You just see like, it's like probably an enterprising, like, I mean, there's a lot of car theft or like crime out here or whatever, like a lot of break-ins. It's probably just like a guy who does that. It's like, oh fuck, looks like I came up on the mother load.
I remember when I was I don't know 15 or something like that. We were really into stealing the chrome caps off of tires on cars, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
So we were doing that all the time. You see, I don't know why anybody buys them because teenagers are always going to steal them. So we would do that. And one time a cop was fucking giving us grief for something. And my friend was standing behind him, taking the chrome caps off the cop car. And I thought it was the bravest thing I've ever, like, stealing from the cops is so brave.
Yeah. Oh, so brave. I mean, it's like, and I'm not even sure how much you can get for a cop's gun. Because that's going to be, if that's used in a murder, that is going to be like, they're going to try their fucking damnedest to solve that murder.
Oh, yeah. And they're going to like, I mean, they're looking for it the whole time. Like if that gun, no matter where you take that gun, you just got to sell it to another, like, criminal. And they're not going to pay that much for it because it's like a hot gun or whatever, you know? Me and Brett just had this weird conversation on the show recently about in Portland during the Patriot Prayer Rally last year.
Mm-hmm.
These two guys filled a bucket with horse lubricant and glitter.
Yeah.
And they poured it on two cops.
That rules.
It absolutely rules. It's the coolest thing. And so we started talking. They ended up getting 5 days in jail, like 36 days of community service and a $500 fine.
That's not that bad.
Yeah, it felt excessive to me. But then again, I don't think anybody should ever go to jail for anything.
Yeah. Agreed.
So we start talking about it, and he's like, well, what do you do in a case like this? And I came up with this idea that I think you would really appreciate.
What is it?
If you do something that humiliates a cop, right? They should then have to take their belt and hand it to another cop and fight you. Like you get to fight the cop without any weapons or anything. And then whatever happens, and then you go your separate ways.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, I would still probably get my ass kicked.
Right. But you would, but getting your ass kicked is better.
Way better.
Yeah. Than going to jail for 5 days and like having your life railroaded. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, here's the thing. I would just do crimes in front of old policemen then.
That's true. I mean, most of them are, I don't know what it's like in San Francisco, but in Columbus, the cops basically, I don't feel like I could see very many of them running or like they're not very athletic is what I'll say when I see them.
Yeah, here they are, because getting a cop job out here, it's like 100 and something K per year starting.
It is here too, but it's like those guys are making like 90,000. I think it's $90,000 a year.
What's like an average? What's the minimum wage out there?
$7.50 an hour.
Jesus Christ.
I know. I don't know what to do. I think about it all the time, and I'm just
what could you do on $7.50 an hour? You can't even go to the movies.
No, I'll tell you this though. My rent is $1,035 a month, and I live in a 3-bedroom apartment, a 3-bedroom like half double with a basement, and like 2 floors, and
Yeah.
I live in a pretty big place. So the rent is cheaper, but $7.50 an hour doesn't get you much at all.
Yeah.
Is what I'll say. Most jobs are now paying $8.50. I know I've told this story a few times, but I went to get a job at a camera store, and I told them I needed $9 an hour to start, and they talked me down to $8.50.
God damn, dude. It's like you know how much cameras sell for.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Like one camera pays like a month of your fucking pay.
Oh yeah. And you want to know, like, the dude that owns the place is a Bernie Sanders guy too, which just pissed me off, man. I never stopped thinking about running into that guy at a Bernie Sanders rally.
Yeah.
And just being like, what? You actually do have some power, you know?
It's like I do not like progressive business owners because they do that shit so much.
Right. And you know what they say is they're like, well, that's just the reality that we're living in.
Exactly. But it's just like you just want to make more money, which I get. True. But like, don't pretend it's something else here.
Right. I mean, me and Brett are paying like the people that my wife books the shows and people like that, like $20 an hour. But we're also being like, hey, you can't work a ton. You know what I mean? Like the money's coming out of our business here and shit. But it's like if we couldn't pay that money, we wouldn't hire anybody. This could just be me and him, Yeah. And that's what I think that's something that is what makes me the most nuts about small business owners and progressive small business owners is like, if you have this ethic, if you have these work ethics, then like you have to do the whole business by yourself until you can afford to pay somebody fairly.
Yeah. It does suck. I mean, that's why I will never, despite my heritage, become a small businessman.
Never. You don't want to open
came to this country and started a pawn shop immediately. That's
a cool small business.
Fresh off the boat and then off the prairie wagon or whatever. I think it was Wyoming. They're like, all right, where's a good place for Jews from Ukraine? Wyoming. And then they immediately just opened a pawn shop.
You think people cared as much about then? Like back then?
Like probably more upper class people did, but like probably other people just didn't really know what Jews were.
No, yeah. They just thought there were other white people.
Yeah, they're just like, everyone also back then was like everyone was an immigrant back then. Like who would go to a pawn shop.
Right. Yeah.
So like everyone's like, I'm Italian or whatever, fucking. And those were the people you look down on.
Italians and Irish people.
Absolutely. Still do not do that.
I have actually read things about the earlier part of whatever the colonist stuff is, where like there was like not as much racism in the South, and people didn't like hate each other as much until things started to pick up and more people got over.
Oh yeah, here. Absolutely.
Like white guys and black guys were like working together.
Exactly. And then they were just like, yeah, in some cases, definitely. I mean, that's why like, especially like, I'm not like super well versed in it, but there's like really, it's interesting how not interesting. It's just like very blatant how like the upper classes played racial prejudice, like the seeds of racial prejudice they really planted and like spread them. Yeah, it's race was like I don't know much, like enough about it to talk with any authority, but like race was like it was dealt with, I feel like, a little bit differently. Now it's like all whites are the same. Even Nazis think all whites are the same now. Well, you see Nazis who are like, yeah, we're all European.
Yeah.
Or like they love Ukraine. I'm like, about that whole thing, right? In Ukraine, like you guys killed a lot of them.
Yeah.
But now they love them.
Yeah, the white thing is, well, Asians, they get treated like white by a lot of those people too, you
Well,
know?
the Japanese did ally with the Nazis.
Right. Well, and like because I guess like in academics, white is something completely different from what Nazis think white is. You know,
Really?
white is like a sort of it's
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know what you mean.
yeah, it's like the dominant just the dominant power. So, they'll consider anybody who's not kind of oppressed or whatever white now.
Yeah,
And I think that like the Nazi type people, they have to accept pretty much anybody because
yeah.
there's not very many people. Not it's so I can't. It is hard enough to get people to be communist. I can't imagine what it's like to get people to be Nazi.
Yeah, that's got to be tough because it's like I imagine if I was like a Nazi at work and like I was trying to like get other guys to be Nazis. I'd have to be like, guys, like I guess you sort of slide into it maybe.
I don't know because I don't know. I've always been bad about even talking politics with dudes at work, and I'm not racist or anything. I'm
Yeah,
just like a socialist or a communist anarchist type guy. And so like I find that hard, and I'm not trying to fucking do anything that's gonna hurt or kill anybody.
exactly. And like it's what I found though, it's I've been thinking about this a lot lately is that the sort of guys that I work with who describe themselves as like kind of libertarian, but like they're not like, reading fucking like the Weekly Standard or anything. They're not like ideological libertarians. They're libertarians because they like want weed to be legal and think the government sucks and like thinks that like taxes are bullshit.
They really like the movie V for Vendetta.
Not even. They just like they're like not even that into it. They're just like
Ah,
I think on that because like I don't like either political party and like I think weed should be legal. Those guys fucking rock because those guys are like if they haven't even heard of socialism really, like they've heard maybe like a PragerU ad before a YouTube video, but like once you sort of introduce them to like the workers movement, they're like, oh, this makes way more sense.
right. Yeah. And it also, like, once you can break apart that thing that gets drilled into their head about logic or whatever, there's like this, they always talk about, like, what human nature, I
Yeah.
guess.
Oh,
There's
they
like this,
love human nature.
they do. There's this human nature argument that they all make that you have to go in and kind of surgically remove it from them in a way.
Yeah.
You have to say things like, well, we've all kind of joined together as a community now. Like isn't human nature isn't really to kill each other. Me and you aren't killing each other right now.
Uh-huh.
And that's how I usually do it. It's like, why do you think human nature is to kill each other? That's like people in power manipulating other people to kill people. But really, human nature is to like kind of I don't know, we're like a virus that like grows, and those can be communities,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
spores.
Yeah.
And
It's sorry, go on.
and that's how that's what I always think when they talk about when you start arguing with a libertarian. Once you can knock that out of their mind, the human nature thing, once you can explain that to them, you've got a socialist.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like like people just don't like know what it is. And as long as you're not weird, or like one of those people who like you don't bring up like Stalin or whatever.
No.
People might bring up Stalin, just like, yeah, it's kind of complicated. But like as long as you're not weird and dogmatic, or like you can just talk to someone, like most of the conversations I have with people about at work are just like us saying that our dicks are small to each other.
Yes.
Like almost 100% of the time. Or my coworker and I just he just singing that song "Daddy Wasn't There" from Austin Powers to me at the top of his lungs.
Yeah, or like, yeah, there's a bunch of inside joke. There's like a ton of inside jokes at work, and you're really just fucking around. So like when you start thinking about, so I worked with two Nazis, back at the cable company,
Uh-huh.
and they didn't recruit. at work at all. It was just like, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I knew they were fucking Nazis. They were, I mean, one of them was a legitimate Nazi. One was just kind of a guy that posted on Stormfront, you know?
Yeah.
And they never tried to recruit me. Maybe they just looked at me and like, well, what are we going to do with this guy?
Exactly. This isn't exactly the prime example of the white man.
Yeah, maybe that's possible.
I mean, even the one guy at my work who's kind of racist is like racist in like a non, like he like always talks shit about Asian people, and he's like older and like kind of like very like old school, kind of working class San Francisco, you know, not super up on stuff. But he's just like, I don't know, he's just like, he probably just grew up talking like that. And it's not like he doesn't do it to anyone at work. He just like says it to you sometimes. And like not even that often. And it's like, you know, I bet this guy can change.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
it's like, I don't think this is the horrible person. Like I don't think he wants anyone dead. He's not even that kind of racist. Like he just complains about like Asian drivers and shit.
Right. It's not hate. It is bad sense of humor
and like ignorance. Like it actually is ignorance.
Yeah. And it's just like not a funny guy. It's not hate. There are a lot of people, and I've been hitting on this a lot since I'm studying these shock jocks, where there are just a lot of right-wing people out there, or people that we look at as conservative or racist, that just were raised on this idea that the First Amendment is super important, and that the only way that you can defend the First Amendment is to say racist. To say really offensive things.
Exactly, because that's only absolutely.
So, like, it's the entirety of their politics. They're like the Second Amendment people, right?
Yes. These guys just pick an amendment, and then everything is crafted around that.
Yeah, I mean, and it's really just that they like to be able to like they like to feel like they could get in trouble for saying something, you know, like they like to feel like they're like Larry Flint, you know, like the People versus Larry Flint.
Yeah, like most of the time people are just like, shut the fuck up.
Yes. And it's like, I remember at the cable company, there was, other than the Nazis, like my manager used to tell me racist jokes. Cause at the time I had started podcasting and I was kind of like, 15 people were listening. This was like 2005 when people weren't even thinking about listening to podcasts. And I was doing this little podcast, and I was talking about maybe doing some stand-up comedy. And people at work would always tell me jokes. They would always want to like test their jokes out on me. And most of them were racist jokes, you know? And that's the assumption when I talk about what I do now anyway. There's a certain type of person that when I tell them what I do, they're like, oh, do you do edgy stuff? Are you like kind of edgy? Are you dirty? And like, I don't like to say I'm edgy, but I think that like to certain people, the stuff that me and Brett do could be considered edgy and offensive.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I'm like, you might get offended. I don't know. And then they automatically go to, so like a lot of jokes about race and stuff. I'm like, no.
Yeah. I know. And like people got really mad at Zizek for like saying something like, you know, working class people like to make fun of each other for their race or whatever. I mean, sure, he said it much stupider than that. But like at my work, a lot of people do that. And it's like not generally white people that do that. I work with. I don't know about that. And it's like there is like a gentle chiding, I guess. Like I don't know how to describe it, and maybe I shouldn't even describe it at all. But like they're like I don't know. Like I can make fun of myself for being like Jewish to my coworkers, and they think it's funny, and there's no like harm done.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, I had a guy I was at the laundromat a couple weeks ago at 2 a.m. on a Saturday.
Classic time. Tweaker hours.
Hey, that is the time to do it if you're going to do it. Because if
true.
you're going to a laundromat, you want to be there when there's weirdos there, or it's like pointless, you know? And so I'm in the laundromat, and there's this guy there. He was a big black dude, and he yelled for me. Hey, can you come over here? and I was in the parking lot smoking. I walked across the parking lot over to talk to him, and he asked me if I'd ever done LSD. And
That's a great question.
it is a good question. I told him yes, I've done it a bunch of times, and he was telling me to tell the other guy to try LSD, which
Oh yeah,
was another customer at the laundromat that he didn't know until then. He was just like really talking to everybody, right? And he put his arm around me and he kept telling me that I'm not white. He was like, "No, your dad's probably black, right?" And it was just like it felt like the first thing he went to was like race type of jokes, and I was like so nervous about it that I was just like,
yeah. In this situation, I just stay quiet.
I did, and well, he would be like, "You're not white," and I was like, "Oh, I am," because and the weird part about it was in this interaction, I think I was trying to think of like how, I don't know, like how would the people on Twitter think of how I handled this interaction?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I guess it's just different in real life. I don't know, like working people like use rough language with each other.
Oh yeah,
Like that's just like how it is. And I think sometimes like some like left-wing people who sort of like are in the academy or something, I don't know, like it or just like have been sort of insulated in these like strictly left-wing spaces for a long time. Like regular people have a pretty like contradictory stuff going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So like, and sometimes that comes out in weird ways, and it's just like you roll with it.
Yeah, and it's loose. Like it's just language is a lot looser in everyday life when you're not around people that are kind of thinking about language and how it affects other people. I think is the way that I think about it.
Yeah.
And like you can always carry yourself in what would be the right way.
Yeah,
you know?
I do.
Yeah, you don't have to join in, but there's also like you have to reckon with the fact that not everybody is going to be on that level. Like when Kevin Hart got kicked off the Oscars, right?
Yeah.
And like a lot of working people or people that I've worked with, or even people just like that I see on Facebook or something, they were like super outraged about that because they were like, it's only jokes. And then we were having like kind of this discourse on Twitter. I mean, I didn't talk about it, but you saw people talking about it like this is how it's actually harmful. I honestly think that's the place we should be having that conversation, because that's a place where people in media kind of talk to each other. But like, I can also understand some dude that like works at a gas station that's just like, I would have liked to have seen Kevin Hart on TV.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Like they don't get, I don't know. It's yeah. People like don't get why it's wrong, because it's like to them, it's like just how people talk.
Yeah. And
comedy, like, it's like a joke.
Right. And comedy has been really about sarcasm and being mean for the past like 20 years.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
definitely. I can't even remember what he had said. It's like, it's fucking Kevin Hart. He's short.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, but it is one of those, like when you start thinking about like South Park is like 20 years old.
And I think really South Park, like, I think that did kind of warp a lot of people's brains, because it sort of taught them this, like, you know, anyone who's ever sincere about anything is a bitch.
Yes.
You know, and like, and it should be made fun of, and like, you should just make fun of everything because everyone's like bullshitting you.
Yeah. It was like it was like, yeah, you're right. Anybody who cares about something is probably demented for caring about it.
Exactly. Like there's something wrong with them.
Yeah. But I think that's starting to lift up. I think comedy,
definitely.
But I mean, we did just. I mean,
comedy is funnier the meaner it is.
Well, it was for. I think like you do need a target. I believe.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
But I don't think the target, I don't think it always has to be mean though. You know what I mean? No. Like I think like my feeling is that like we have a target. So I'm not going to be a person that says you shouldn't make fun of people or be mean to people. It's just like choosing your targets wisely is better than just like indiscriminately hitting every target that you see, you know? And I think the South Park, Family Guy, like Louis C.K. Like, think about Louis C.K. Like, that guy was so big for that period of time, and a lot of his humor was like, "My kids are fucking stupid," you know?
Yeah. But then people also loved him. He was like, "Why are people complaining? Cell phones rock." He was just like the perfect like Gen X comedian in like a millennial world.
Yeah.
For that, like he was like people loved him for that.
Well, don't you remember being kind of younger and looking up to like? There's this weird thing that happens in your. Well, you were a punk though.
Yeah.
In those early days when I was in my 20s, like I looked up to boomers as like these really cool, wise people who understood the world.
Yeah.
You know? And it didn't change until I got like in my 30s and I was a dad. And I was like, fuck, I'm doing all the same shit they do. And I'm not a hateful fucking asshole. You know what I mean? But did you ever have that period of your life where you like you like looked up to somebody or the things that are the generation before you?
A slight, like I thought people slightly older than me was cool, but also I was like under the impression that everyone was bad.
I wish that's why I needed punk. Somebody needed to come and find me when I was listening to Korn and point me in the direction of punk, and Street Fight could have started happening. Well, it could have never happened at another time, but you know, whatever this is, this kind of comedy could have happened so much earlier, because like I had no idea that there were people that didn't respect like Pink Floyd. You know what I mean?
Yes. Who I dislike like tremendously.
Well, you know, me and you we're both very different guys in our lives, but we both like the Doors.
I love the Doors.
Yes.
If there was a Doors now, Jim Morrison would be arrested. If Jim Morrison was alive today, he would be in the highest security prison in the United States of America, because he would imagine Jim Morrison versus Donald Trump.
Okay. Well,
imagine Jimbo versus Don.
God, I have this thing in my mind where I think a lot of those classic rock guys would have been like Donald Trump guys.
Oh, they all are now.
Yeah.
But Jim, and especially because, you know, Jim's a Navy brat. His dad did start the Vietnam War.
Yeah. Yes. That's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
I know, it's so sick.
Wild.
I think Jim would be like a resistance guy.
Oh, you think like would he be like
Jim's farmer's market all the way?
Okay.
He's totally, you take away the 60s stuff, you put him in the modern world, he's got nothing.
God, here's the shittiest thing about that. Here's the thing about that, though. I take Jim out of the 60s and move him to now, and he's a libertarian in my mind.
Ooh, yeah.
Like a Ron Paul. He was like got really into Ron Paul.
Yeah, he would love the Revolution. He would, fuck. I wish Jimbo was here now.
I know. Now we need to know.
Jim Morrison would be born in like 1992 and be Me Too'd by 1998.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, if he was born, so let's make him 30 now.
Yeah.
He would. He would probably. I mean, the hope is that he wouldn't be a corny resistance guy, right?
Or he could also maybe just be like, he might be like an Instagram guy. I could see him, because Jim Morrison, not great looking, right? But he did feel comfortable shirtless.
Right.
And that sort of body positivity is huge right now.
Well, I think every woman I knew was really into him.
Yeah.
You know who is Jim Morrison from the 90s? You're probably going to get pissed at me for saying it, but I think I know who Jim Morrison from the 90s is.
Who?
Trent Reznor.
Yeah, you're right. I don't like him, but fair is fair.
He's our Jim Morrison.
You think so?
I can't think of anybody that has the same energy. I'm trying to think of somebody else that has the same energy as Jim Morrison, that has been a big rock star, because we're talking about big rock stars and there hasn't been any. You know, I'm taking my daughter to Austin in October to see Billie Eilish, who is like the current rock star.
Yeah, I saw a music video of hers.
Yeah, she's pretty cool. She put a spider in her mouth.
Yeah, she seems stoned.
Yeah, but she might be. My daughter loves her. She got into her like a long time ago on
She's like a
Spotify somehow.
child, right?
Yes, I think she's like 19 or 20. She dresses like a Corn fan.
Okay.
Like not the kind of Corn you're a fan of. You and Khrushchev are a
Yeah,
fan.
no, yeah, she's like a goth.
Yeah. 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 So there's that. I think like but there haven't been a lot of big rock stars. And I think like Trent Reznor was as big as Jim Morrison was,
Uh-huh.
and probably roughly the same kind of guy, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, and it's women loved him. Women wanted him. Men wanted to be him.
I did. I like the philosophical, good-looking guy as like the dream, you know?
The dark mystery.
That's my dream. I want to
Women be loving mysteries.
I always wanted to be the very philosophical, very handsome man.
I know it sucks that I'm both stupid, ugly, and my philosophy basically revolves around the fact that it should be illegal that I can no longer have the stamina to jack off 3 times a day. That's so fun. I used to jack off. I'm sorry. This is adults hour. I used to jerk off like 3 times a day.
I mean, I was probably in roughly the same boat for a period.
I couldn't do it if I wanted to now.
You're too tired. You're like
Too tired.
Fucking every 3 days.
I don't want to. Exactly, every 3 days. And it's like I don't want to. I don't want my girlfriend to catch me.
Yeah, me neither.
Has that ever happened to you?
You know what? I don't talk. I would never do this on another show, but since it's with you, I'm going to. She found a bunch of porno once. Like a long time ago
on the computer or like magazines?
In a drawer in the magazines. She never caught me like actually fucking in the middle. I would leave.
That would be immediate grounds for dismissal of relationship. And it would be like no one wants it, you know, like we're getting along fine. But if my girlfriend walked in on me in mid-act, I would stand up, not say a word, not even zip up, walk straight out the door.
I would move to Alaska.
Absolutely. I would join the French Foreign Legion.
It's just so embarrassing. It's like the two things that I think the two most vulnerable positions for me are shitting and jerking off. Like I don't ever want
hunched, sweaty, looking at my phone on both.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to ever see that. It's the worst situation.
I would faint. I
Me
think
too.
That's happened to me when I was a kid. My dad walked in, but I was able to, because this was before like computers had like motion.
Yeah.
It's just pictures. And I was able to quickly and deftly open another window, but he had to be hip to something was going on.
Oh yeah, I mean, knowing now what I know about, I have a teenager in the house. You know, it like you're not slick. Like I know everything that kid does.
Yeah,
well, I don't know what she does. I mean, like I'm not saying she does anything
like bad
untoward. I'm saying that like you're bad at hiding. And like when your dad walks in on you in the bathroom with a laptop on your lap, I think he knows what you're doing.
Exactly. And to his credit, he did not say anything, although he did, immediately finish me off. It was
okay. Silently though. That's
exactly. He did it with dignity. He did it with grace, and he did it respecting my boundaries,
like a father should.
Yeah.
Well, Brace, I'm glad we did this. I missed you, man.
Yeah, me too. I'm glad to be back in the groove.
Yeah, I'm gonna get this is gonna happen more again. I'm not touring as much the second half of the year, and I will make sure to get a hold of. You know how many people ask me when we're gonna do this again?
How many?
Upwards of 10.
Wow.
No, I'm kidding. No, people kept asking. I was getting like people don't ever ask me to do anything on the show. And I was getting DMs like, when are you and Brace going to record again? And I was like,
wow, I hope we didn't disappoint.
Well, I hope we did, actually.
Yeah, you know what? I did too. I don't like to be wanted. I like to be hated.
Well, Brace, we'll see you we'll see you in about a month. And it's wonderful. I love talking to you, man.
Hasta la vista, baby.
I'm